Hey guys, welcome back to my hypertrophy lifting series where me and you are going to become stronger and bigger together. This is not only a series where I can educate, inform, and entertain, but also where I am going to try and become better alongside you guys. So while you're learning, I'm learning too. Anyway, this is week 2, day 4 of my MyoMax training program. You guys can get it down below in the description. Full disclosure, it is $10, but I record as much of my lifting as I possibly can. So you really don't need the program unless you just want the Excel or PDF or whatever document so that you can input your own weights and track your own progress a little bit more thoroughly. But again, I record everything for the most part. So, and there's also timestamps and stuff. So you guys can totally just scrub through and see what I'm doing and replicate it if you guys choose to follow. You don't have to. I would just love you guys to participate, watch the video, stuff like that. Today we're starting with the chest supported T-bar row. This is an upper body day, so I'm going to be rotating between the back and then the posterior chain and then the anterior chain of the upper body back and forth. I really like this movement because it is more stable. You have that chest support. I'm grabbing the more outward handlebars because that forces the emphasis away from the lats and more so to the mid back. So you're getting more of a mid back activation. And with the chest support, that's minimizing the lower back and core stability components. So you can just focus on your rhomboids and mid traps and all that little musculature in there inside of the mid back. You guys can totally do a narrower grip if you want to more specialize on the lats, because when you have your elbows more tucked, you're going to be getting more lat growth. But later on today, we're going to be hitting some lat pull downs and stuff, which is totally specific for the lats. Anyway, I'm going up from 245s and a 25 to 245s and a 35. So it's a little PR for sure. Anyway, let's get into it. I forgot to mention that I'm throwing in some shrugs at the very end just to get a little bit of mid to upper trap work in there as well. I know it's not going to be truly upper because you need to be doing it more vertical to achieve more upper trap activation. However, on the first upper body day of each week, we hit the Smith machine bent over row, and then we do some shrugs. So kind of getting a little bit of both in there. That's what this program is all about. We're getting different angles. It's a true hypertrophy program through and through. So we're trying to hit all the angles many different ways, but also continually drive the stimulus for growth. Something that I'm trying to continuously remind myself of is I'm trying to fully stretch out my back at the very bottom, and then I'm squeezing my shoulder blades together at the top. And while I'm doing so, I'm kind of trying to reinforce that mind muscle connection that people love to talk about, which if you guys don't really know, I mean, basically what that is you're just trying to focus on using one muscle over the others and just really hone in on that. So instead of trying to just lift the weight, try and use the cue of, oh, I'm initiating every single rep with my back and I'm pulling with my back. Of course, you're not going to be able to take the secondary mover like the biceps or another mover like the forearms completely out of the lift. But by just focusing all your attention onto one muscle group, it does seem to elicit more motor recruitment and activation out of that one muscle group. And if you guys haven't really figured it out for yourself, because it took me a long time to figure out my mind muscle connection with my back, just through trial and error. Just keep pushing, keep getting your sets and reps in, because you will improve eventually. It may not be today, it may not be tomorrow, but eventually it's going to click. Oh, that was definitely more challenging of a set. So I'm gonna make sure I'm fully rested before doing the next set, or else it's just gonna go down the drain. I think that's something to really keep in mind when you're doing your sets. If it's really hitting like you weren't expecting, give yourself a little bit more of a rest period. There's no shame in that, especially if that is the difference between performing your best on the next set or not. Okay, I rested a couple minutes, and I find that like 3 minutes is more on the top end of what I need for any given lift in this program, at least. If I were doing something more systemically fatiguing, so like it's really draining my whole body, like a conventional deadlift, you know, 8 or 9 RPE, then definitely like I may need 4 or 5 minutes. But for any of these like moderate rep range, more hypertrophic lifts, more muscle group growth, oriented lifts, I feel like 3 minutes is peak, and I only got like a couple, but I feel like I'm good to go. So I guess only time will tell. One more. Okay, I know those shrugs seem kind of phoned in at the end, but geez, guys, if you guys are doing alongside me, you'll understand. You're so gassed by the end of that set of each row, and you're already hitting the traps to a large degree while you're doing the row. So it's just a little bit of extra stimulus. So don't try to, don't take it too seriously with that little superset at the end. It's not that serious, All right, so next up, I'm moving on to the dumbbell incline press. I'm doing like a 30 degree, just because I like a little bit less of a decline instead of a 45, because that places more of an emphasis on the entire chest rather than just like more so the incline portion. So whenever you go higher up with the bench, the higher up the incline all the way to straight, it's going to be shifting the emphasis from the chest up the body, over towards the deltoids instead in the upper traps. So by having kind of like an incline but not like a super high incline, I'm getting most of the chest, with mainly the stimulus being affecting the upper portion of the chest. So anyway, last time I got 10 reps with 80 pounds, so I'm gonna try and beat it. I don't know if it's possible. That was pretty tough last time, but I'm gonna try my hardest. Okay, now for some rest partials. Okay, so I believe I hit the same metrics as last time. I may have even had another rep in there, but I'm pretty happy with what occurred. Now I just need to beat the next two sets, which last time I got 7 and 5 partials. And then for the third set, I got 6 and 5 partials. So as long as I beat those, that means that I'm enacting progressive overload and I'm doing something right. That's why I really preach like having a program or just even just like a piece of paper where you can write down your weights and your sets and your reps. and the exercise, so that you have documentation for next time you step into the gym and you're doing the same lift. You know exactly what you did. You know what you have to do to beat it. And you're not just going in blind. Because if you're just going into the gym blind without any records, then how are you ever completely sure that you're surpassing your previous best? You really have no idea besides your memory, and your memory can't always be trusted. In fact, the human memory is pretty flawed. You know, we block things out, we alter things. That's why time heals all wounds. It's not because time is actually healing it. It's because through our like flawed memory over time, we just change things. The same holds true with trying to remember numbers and weights and what you did on this day. That's why keeping a physical log is of the utmost importance, in my opinion. Before we get into set numero dos, I just wanted to briefly highlight why I choose the dumbbell variation of this particular lift instead of the more fixed in place barbell variation. I'll start by highlighting the benefits of each. So for barbells, I think that it's really, really easily loadable, and it's a little bit more stable because you have both hands working bilaterally together to lift the weight, and you can just load that sucker up, and it really relates a lot more to more of a strength focused program. However, I love dumbbells because you're working each arm kind of in junction of itself, and then you can really get the emphasis on each pec, and you can also go down a lot lower, because with a barbell, once you go down enough, you're going to be hitting your chest in some capacity. I think you're not going to be able to go any lower than that. Versus a dumbbell, you can theoretically go down as far back as your flexibility allows, and on top of that, when you're pushing up, you can converge and adduct your arms inward, and then that's one of the functions of the chest, is to adduct the arm across the body. So by doing that, that's the natural curvature of the chest. So you're actually not the curvature, but the natural force curve that the chest wants to go through. So whenever you can put a muscle through its truest function, I think that is the ideal way to train it, since you're training it in the ways that it actually wants to be used. So that's why I like using a dumbbell. I think that if you were mainly strength focused, I wouldn't pass the barbell up. I think that it's very valuable. But if you can, I'd probably pick a cambered bar, the one where it's flat, then it goes up, goes back down, that's flat, because then you can get the deepest range of motion that your flexibility will allow, but you also get that stability and strength building component that the barbell is so well known for. Okay, set number 2. I probably shouldn't be lifting the dumbbells like that. It's kind of dangerous. Oh, hell yeah, I'm super happy with that. That's 2 for 2 there. I matched the first set. And whenever you can match the first set, that means that you are really putting your best foot forward in the most effort and intensity that you can muster, because that first set is usually the strongest because you're most freshest with that first set. By the time you do 3, 4, whatever, 5 sets, your form will probably degrade a lot and your strength levels will definitely degrade. So I'll take it. Let's try and go over the third set too. That'd be phenomenal. Okay guys, after a couple minute rest period, I'm ready to go again. Let's try and hit that 10 mark. And it's crazy, when you guys are being consistent and really putting in effort in the gym day after day, it's eventually gonna pay off, because I never used to be able to do 80s with 10, much less do it for multiple sets. I mean, we'll see if I get third, but even just 2 sets of 80 for 10 is a huge PR for my lifting journey, my lifting career. Oh, did it. Oh, fuck yeah, guys. Let's go. Okay, up next, I'm moving on to the lat pull down. I'm using the neutral grips just because it feels better for me. And with a neutral grip, you kind of get this, like, it's almost like the camber bar, like I was talking about, where you get that kind of lift so you can get down as far as your flexibility allows. I'm going up 10 pounds from 150 to 160 today, and we're gonna see how it goes. Okay, then I have a program drop set in, so I'm gonna reduce it to 85. See how many I can get. My only issue with this one is that since the bar I'm using kind of brings down the handle where my arms are relative to where the machine stops. So when I'm doing it, and I'm trying to stretch out my lats as far as I can go, I end up hitting the top before I get that full stretch. That it's partly to do with the handle, but partly to do with my height and the seat position as well. So, you know, I kind of have to choose the one that I prefer. And last program I ran like the traditional bar for the lat pull down. So I'm mixing it up for a good reason. I'm going to continue to do so. So before I get into my next set, I just want to highlight a form cue that I tell myself, and hopefully it resonates with you. When I'm going down, I'm trying not to use the momentum of my torso to bring down the weight. A lot of people, when they're bringing down the weight, they're like swinging it and like bringing their chest to the bar and, you know, using just a lot of momentum when they're lifting it. And that's not the right way to go about it, in my opinion, because the more momentum you're using, the less of your muscular system that you're using. That's okay if you're doing like CrossFit or something where you're just trying to get from point A to point B, or, you know, another sport that's similar to that. However, with gaining muscle and enlarging your muscle fibers and all that stuff, you really want to be as like locked into place and as intentional with each of your movements and repetitions as you can possibly be. And that's what I'm gonna try and do. Oh shoot, I forgot to change the weight. That's what I'm gonna try and reinforce. Some strict form on this one. A little bit of leaning is okay because it puts the back at a more advantageous position, but too much is not. Okay, now for that drop set. All right, guys, let's move on. Okay, next up, we move on to like the main like volume contributor for the chest. So we started with our main chest movement being like the shallow 30-degree incline dumbbell press, and that is a great free weight exercise. But I like to include something else like a machine chest press, and this one's an incline variation, so that we get that free weight component, but we also get that highly stabilized and controlled exercise as well. So the other one was like building form, technique, tempo, and strength. Then this one is really just focusing in on that extra amount of tension and progressive overload and volume. So, you know, it's a great added compound lift. And I'm going up 10 pounds from 150 to 160, I believe. So I'm doing a 45 on each side and then a 25 and a 10 on each side. We're almost to 2 plates. I'm excited for that. All right, I got 10 there and then 5 long length partials. I'll have to check my records. I have to check the program, but geez, I'm so sweaty. That's how you know you're really putting enough effort in if your forehead is sweating like a mother. I believe that's the metrics I hit last time, except with like 10 pounds less. So, you know, either way you spin it, that's a PR. However, could I have gone more reps? Maybe, but at what cost? Sometimes you gotta evaluate, is absolute muscular failure worth it in the grand scheme of things? Not everyone programs in failure for every single set. Neither am I. I'm not programming in failure for really any sets, but I do encourage testing your limits, getting close to failure, and trying to hit failure on probably most of your lifts. But at a certain point, hitting failure every single time may interfere with recovery. And that's when you really want your recovery to be dialed in. You know, that means that your sleep's probably the most important. Sleep is dialed in, your nutrition, how much you're eating, how much protein you're intaking, that 3 dialed in. And then you got your like activities dialed in. That doesn't mean that you have to be doing active recovery activities. Like you don't need to be doing cold plunge, you don't need to be doing a sauna. However, with recovery, it's almost like less is more. And the more you're just de-stressing, relaxing, getting cuddles from your significant other, hanging out with some friends, grabbing dinner, you know, and like the less you're doing of like harming activities, like adding in, you know, maybe you're playing sports, like that's going to mess with your gym recovery. You know, there's more like going to the club, going out and drinking with people. While it's fun and you should absolutely do it from time to time, if you're doing it all the time, then it's messing with your recovery. Anyway, I think I'm good to go. Six, 7. I do feel like those long length partials could be a little bit more accentuated. They're a little bit phoned in, but you know, all in due time, my friend. All right, last one. My biceps, or sorry, misspoke, my triceps. Well, actually, both my biceps and triceps, just my whole arm. It's a little fatigued because yesterday we hit the arms pretty hard with the accessory day. Granted, you know, the arms are not the primary mover in any of these lifts, but they still play a function, and I can feel it on each rep when I get close to the top. My triceps don't want to lock out the movement because that's like the triceps take over almost entirely at the very top of a chest press movement. I always prefer to lock it out just for like completion's sake, but you know, they're feeling it a little bit today and they're having a hard time locking that out. I can just tell that I worked them yesterday, which is okay, because out of any muscle group in the body, I think that the arms are one of the best ones to handle that kind of frequency, you know, more than a 2 times a week frequency. I think I'm doing about 4 times a week frequency, which is, it's a lot, but it's definitely doable, and dare I say, it could be ideal. Okay, next up, I got the seated, like locked in unilateral machine lat pull. So I'm just focusing on 1 lat at a time, trying to keep my torso rigid. At the end, we're gonna knock some cheat reps. Last time I didn't use straps, I don't believe, but this time I'm gonna be using straps because last time I kind of found that my grip was a bit of a limiting factor. And whenever your grip gives out before your back, you're kind of in trouble. You definitely want your back to be the limiting factor, because after all, it's a back exercise. So, and after doing so much back work today, my grip is starting to dwindle. Forgot to mention that I really like this variation instead of the other one that's similar to it, the other hammer strength machine, because this one puts your hand in supination, so your palm is facing your face. And whenever you're doing supination, you're gonna be working biceps too. So with this variation, you're working lats. You're also getting some bicep work. It's kind of nice. Like some more direct bicep work than you would in a conventional row, just because of it's at a better angle to assist. I especially like to include this movement because you're very fixed into place with this one. I mean, your knees are clamped down, your chest is against the pad, and then the line of pull is completely fixed, because the other primary lat movement is not quite as fixed. So it's nice to have that combo. Oh, frick. Those are definitely some true cheat reps right there. That's for sure. Okay, let's move on to the superset of the day. Okay, so unfortunately I walked over to the cable machine and all of them are being taken right now. That's what I get for going after most people get off of work. This is like, what time is it? It's 5. This is the busiest hour that the gym can possibly open. So I'm honestly just glad that I got to record what I got to record, but since I'm trying to be respectful, I don't want to get in people's way or anything like that. I mean, after all, I don't own this gym. This is a public gym and I don't want to intrude on other people's space. So I'm going to cut the video now. I think it's been long enough anyway, but I'll tell you what I'm doing in case you guys want to do it and you can't afford to purchase the program. Next up, I'm doing a superset, including the cable unilateral straight arm pull down. And so it would be like this one where you're keeping your arms straight and you're standing with the cable for the lat work. And then I'm supersetting that with the cable bilateral chest fly. So the one where I'm out like this and I'm going down. So I'm supersetting that and I'm doing that for 2 sets. But then after that, I'm doing the standing machine calf raises for 3 sets. And then the seated machine calf raises for 2 sets so that I get some additional calf volume. So anyway, guys, I'm gonna end it here and I'm just gonna do that stuff off camera for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. So anyway, hope you guys enjoyed week 2, day 4. I hope you're following along. I hope you like the program and I'll see you guys tomorrow for week 2, day 5, which is going to be a lower body day. Let's get it.